Hello, welcome back to Seconds Out. My name is Eamon Khan. Pleasure to be joined by one to tick off the list for sure. So many ways to describe this man amassing accolades around the world. UFC Hall of Famer, the world's most dangerous man. Forget HBK. This is Mr. VBK, Ken Shamrock. Ken, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you for having me.
Even better to be speaking to you, Ken. First of all, look, you're in incredible shape, to put it lightly. How are you keeping yourself in such physical condition?
Just maintenance. I don't, like I said, I don't spend a whole lot of time in the gym, but I go in 2, 3 times a week and just, hit some of the muscle areas and do some cardio, and I'm good.
Well, you're putting it very lightly. It's a very tough task when I try to do it, but consistency might be the key, and you've been doing it for many, many years. You're now venturing into a Valor Bare Knuckle next event, October 27th. Tell us more about it and when and what can we expect to see from it?
Yeah, Valor is something that myself and Valor team came up with back in 2019 when we first did our show, and we felt like once we did the first show, and it felt like there was something there. And I've always said from the beginning that if when I got done with fighting, there were things I wanted to change in the fight world, and that's something I got to do when I actually started Valor. And so really that's been something that's been, on my mind since I was a fighter and got to the point to where, I couldn't compete inside the actual circle anymore or square, that I wanted to go outside and actually do things to help other fighters follow their dreams. And I've been able to do that with Valor Bare Knuckle. And we got a show coming up October 27th in the UNF. It's going to be very exciting. I'm very excited to see it. We did our first one. We sold it out. It was tremendous. The vision is unbelievable. It's fan friendly. It's fight friendly. It's exciting. So it's everything you want to see in an organization in a fight.
Now, I know you're not obviously just in the background with this. You've got your feet on the ground too with this when it comes to the tryouts and looking out for talent and speaking to the talent. Is anyone that struck out to you to watch out for?
We've been to a lot of different gyms in the Florida area, obviously, because that's where we're doing our show. So we're looking for that homegrown talent. We do have a main event, which I'm not going to divulge right now, but it's going to be an explosion, man. It's going to be a visual explosion. And I'm excited for that. But we've got a lot of young talent that we're developing around that area. And when we did some of these tryouts, we were very pleasantly surprised on the turnout and also the skill sets. This is a new thing, though. I mean, obviously, guys are sparring with gloves on, and so you just want to kind of see what they got. But this is bare knuckle, and because of the way that the bout circle is, with no ropes, no cages, there's no gloves, no tape, there's no clinching. So it's just something that if you're not careful and you don't understand what you're getting into, this could be very, very, very different, whether you're a boxer or a grappler. This is a very different event. And so for us, doing these tryouts, being able to get to see a lot of this young talent, we're excited to see what they put on display on October 27th at the UNF.
Now, in terms of the company and the vision that you mentioned for it, look, when a burgeoning sport is always in a tough spot to get that mainstream eyes, that mainstream attention, do you feel this has the potential to get there?
Well, again, like I said, we have to do what we can do, which is, get the fight out in that local area, being able to get people through our marketing, and me obviously being down there on the ground, being able to do radio and TV and be able to go to these different gyms like we've been doing to help create that buzz so that people understand Valor. This is a long process. This is not a sprint, man. This is long distance. It's going to take time for us to build the brand and build it the right way, build the right culture, bring in the right fighters. We've already built the team. We have a great team around us of people we've known for years, people that have a lot of experience in the world of combat fighting. So we're pretty happy where we're at. We look forward to being able to get people's recognition in Jacksonville, Florida, where our fight will be. We're very excited about being able to go out and do that. So October 27th to me is where we begin. Obviously, we did one show already, but I truly believe this is our launch pad. From that point on, I think people are going to recognize Valor Bare Knuckle is different than everything else.
And boxing's my main gig, and boxing for a large part is, and still is, I guess, for the most part, traditional kind of go-to combat sport. But for sure, that grip is loosening on that mantle in terms of boxing. MMA's coming in, bare knuckles coming in. How long do you give it for these sports like bare knuckle to take over those mantles? You said it's a long haul trip.
Yeah, the first thing is the education. Being able to educate people is no different in No Holds Barred when it first came out. People didn't understand it. So to them, it was barbaric and it was brutal and it was all this because they didn't know what they were watching. It just saw guys fighting, but they didn't understand all the skill sets. Bare knuckle is no different than that. Is people see guys fighting, but when they're used to seeing it, they see guys on the street beating each other up and no skill or anything like that. But when you actually watch bare knuckle, and Valor Bare Knuckle with our rule sets, it is a very high level of striking. You have to be very accurate. You got to have great footwork because there are no clinching. You can't just grab somebody. So now you're forced to use your footwork. You can't lay on the ropes because there are none. There's no cages. So you have to use your footwork. And you have to be able to use your punches in very, very unique ways, which is mean being very, very accurate with less power. So all these things combined is really what's going to develop this bare knuckle scene.
Oh. I just want to ask you quickly about someone who's at the top of the tree in boxing. That's Tyson Fury. He's come up through a bare knuckle background. He'll obviously done a lot of fighting growing up, as is the Gypsy Traveler style. What do you make of Tyson Fury and his grounding in bare knuckle that's got him to the top of the tree?
Yeah, it would be interesting to see, later down the road, whether or not that's something he'd be interested in getting into, because bare knuckle is here to stay. I think that's something everybody's looking and seeing that it's going to stay, right? And I believe, and it's just my thought process, and it's something that I'm aiming for, is I believe that what we're doing is taking boxing and putting it back where it belongs, and that's top of the food chain in combat sports, because we're taking the gloves off and the tape off and making it more pure, God-given talent. And I truly believe that's coming back. And so that I hope somewhere down the road that Fury understands that, that bare knuckle is the roots of boxing. It is the true way of boxing, not with gloves and tape where it gives people an advantage or disadvantage, depending on whether or not you got power or don't have power, or you use the gloves for being able to block a lot better, or whatever those situations are. But I believe it goes back to the pure, true, God-given talent of boxing.
Hey, you'll be someone who's got an interesting take on this for sure. What do you think of this Fury versus Ngannou fight?
A lot of people keep saying crossover, this and that. It's not a crossover. If they take the gloves off and the tape off, then it's crossover. It's like you literally have a crossover from MMA and boxing. This is pure boxing with an MMA guy going into the boxing ring. So don't confuse that with saying it's a crossover. There's no crossover. There's nothing in it. For Regano, there's nothing in it for him. He's going into somebody else's world who's been doing it at a very high level for a very long time. And the chances of him getting a win are very, very slim. Not to say he doesn't, because he does, because he's got a puncher's chance, right? But he's got gloves on. So how much of a puncher's chance do you really have? So I just think that I love it. I love how these guys come over from MMA and go into the boxing world. But it really is just a spectacle. There's nothing there that's going to happen. And things can happen all the time with puncher's chance, but let's just get real with it. It's more than likely not going to.
Just on your wrestling days, I've got to pick your mind on some stuff, because obviously your wealth of knowledge to pick from. First of all, my editor has asked me to ask you, what was it like working with Owen Hart?
Loved it. Guy was a true competitor, very competitive, and always a pure, true class guy. One of the good ones, if you were going to talk about wrestling as a character inside and outside the ring, he's a great guy. Inside the ring, he was very clever and very knowledgeable with wrestling. And I'm not just talking about pro wrestling, I'm talking about collegiate wrestling. So it was really great to go in and actually compete with him and being able to work with him. I think we lost one of the good ones.
It was a historical moment with the merger of the WWE, UFC, and this Endeavor deal. What do you see for the future of the WWE now that Vince McMahon doesn't have the final say at the highest of levels anymore?
Well, I don't know if that's true. When it comes to pro wrestling, I'm sure that they've kind of written things in there where he's still got pretty majority of the control. But listen, you can't place Vince McMahon. They already tried, and look what happened. right? It's just not the same without Vince. Vince has that mind. But again, like I said, not everybody can do it forever. Someday it does come to an end. And I think that's where we're at right now, where there is a changing of guards, but how that changes, I don't know if anybody really knows. I mean, like you're talking about an industry that is a legit shoot industry, and then one that's just it's got its tough parts into it, but it's entertainment. So I'm interested to see how this all plays out. I like it. I think that it broadens the horizon for everyone involved, and it gives people a lot more jobs too.
Now, I was listening to an interview, and Vince Russo was saying a story back in the day of how you were a legit guy, and if you wanted to settle a difference, you would settle a difference backstage. He was telling a story about you and the Big Show, and you didn't like the Big Show trying to rib on you a little bit. But there's a feeling now, this new generation of wrestlers or wrestling can't or won't deal with differences like the locker room would do when you were there. Has too much been made of the CM Punk situation? Would it have been dealt with accordingly during the famous Attitude Era and before?
Well, I want to get that straight too, because there was absolutely no shoot between me and Big Show. He came up and grabbed me, and I went into a move and caught him in a heel hook, and he tapped out. But it wasn't like he was going full speed. He came up, grabbed me, and I just happened to go into a move. So it was all in fun. And again, Big Show was a tremendous individual and would never disrespect him that way. I think Vince, and what he's trying to say is that he came up and grabbed me, and I defended myself in a very unique way that I do. But in no means was Big Show trying to come in and hurt me. It was all in fun. But I do believe that no matter whether it was in my time or whether it's in this time, it's a business. And you, in this industry, or at least that was one of my issues of things that had happened later on in there, was that you had to trust people when you went into the ring. And so therefore there was no room for people going in the back room and getting into a bare knuckle fight. That's bad business. Especially when you're out there, you're putting your life on the line and you're trusting people to take care of you. So stuff like that shouldn't, and most of the time doesn't happen, even then. But even today, I think it's probably even more so, because it has become so much more professional in that way too, because there's a crossover with so many wrestlers going from MMA into pro wrestling, that I think that has to be even higher, that you can't go in and start beating people up just because you can. It's like myself. There were plenty of times where I got mad and I wanted to light somebody up. But you know what? Business comes first, man. You got to make that smart decision that, this is a business. People have to trust you. And no matter how mad you get, you can't hurt somebody because you get your feelings hurt.
Mm-hmm. Well, fair. I appreciate the response. Final couple of things from myself. Obviously, big UFC head. What did you make of Adesanya and Strickland? A shock defeat there?
I think for people inside the building, I don't know if they thought it was much of a shock. Maybe they did, but I think people knew he was real and that it was going to be a fight. And so I think the way it kind of unfolded maybe was kind of shocking. It didn't seem very planned out. Like they didn't seem to have a whole lot of strategy set, or they just didn't expect what he was doing. So I think more of the way that it happened just kind of was weird to me.
Mm-hmm. Can I leave the final word with yourself? What can people expect to see on October 27th? And if there is a dream bare knuckle fight you would love to promote, love to have on a VBK in the future, what is that fight?
First of all, what they're going to see is they're going to see unimpeded vision. If you're there live, you're going to see fights without having to look through anything. Unbelievable when you're there. If you've ever seen one of these things without that, a Valor fight, if you've been there and you've seen it, you're going to tell people, man, it is the best live fight that they've been to, because they're right there in the action. So for people that are there, it's unbelievable. And, there's a lot of fighters out there that, from the first one to other guys that I have seen in bare knuckle fights that I would love to put together. But I'm not going to divulge that right now, because I truly believe in the week or so we're going to announce ours. And I think that everyone is going to and have wanted to see this one. So I'm very excited when we get to announce it. It's going to be one of those fights where people are going to drop. It's going to be a dropping fight.
Where can we find updates for the latest information on Valor Bare Knuckle?
Yeah, go to valorbk.com. You can check on our website and see all the new and upcoming things. You can also go through some of the social platforms, which are also listed on our website.
Ken, a real pleasure speaking to you. Thanks for speaking to Seconds Out. Great to pick your brain. Looking forward to the VBK2 future VBK events in the future.
Hey, thank you, man. Appreciate you.